Hello, ahoy there. Welcome back to the wine show at home. I'm lifting my cap, my hat here, very smart, quite elderly hat. I'm lifting for two people, Jamie King and Kate Dunn. Hello. I don't know if you're expecting this. Jamie and Kate are paramedics in Winchester, and they're doing amazing work with a friend of mine. And he said, "Would you give a shout out to my two colleagues, to Jamie and Kate?" Hello, very nice to hear from you both. I've been told I have to send, the literal thing was a bowser of booze to you all when this is all over and done with. I will. I'm going to send you some very, very smart wines, courtesy of you know who. It'll roll in. But thank you very much indeed for all that extraordinary work you're doing. And to everybody, all of those people out there going and looking after us. And we are doing our bit by staying in and drinking responsibly. And I'm going to go and show you a bit more responsible drinking today with Songbird Wines. Johnny Wren and Songbird Wines. But we'll come back to him in a minute because we do have some people who help us out with the show. And have a quick look here. What kind of a wine cellar stroke cabinet would you like? Well, we'd all love to go and have a wine room. Just look at this and dream. Oh, that's what I'm going to go and have when we finally turn this into the top gear of wine and become an appalling Jeremy Clarkson type figure. I will have one of those. Don't have one at the moment. At the moment, I've got an attic. That I would go to Sorrells for, Sorrells Wine Cellars. Thank you very much indeed, guys. Making beautiful wine rooms, wine cellars, wine walls. In the interim, I may go and have a nice wine fridge from our friends at Tanglewood. Hello, Tanglewood. Thanks very much. Lots of lovely wine fridges and accessories. And I'm going to put some people your way a bit later on because some people have been asking about accessories. Let's get stuck into some wine here. Can I take the hat off? Thank you very much indeed. Oh. Nice hat, that. It's an original Stetson, and it appears in Series 3 of the Wine Show. Got some bits and pieces coming up. This is Nosiola from Bottega Vinai, Cavit. This is from Trentino, which is that very northern part of Italy. £9.75 from Songbird Wines. Now, Johnny Wren has a simple philosophy, he says. Wine should be fun. Certainly bloody should. What is sometimes forgotten is that wine is about pleasure, to enjoy, and there's no right or wrong wine to like. It's what pleases you. Johnny, cheers to that. You're not wrong. He's in Kent, in Canterbury. Ooh. Shall we quote a bit of... I've got a bit here. A bit of the Canterbury Tales. A lecherous thing is wine, and drunkenness is full of striving and of wretchedness. O drunkard man, disfigured is your face, sour is your breath, foul are you to embrace. There's a cautionary tale. Nosiola is a great variety that you get in northern Italy, and there's some dispute about why it gets its name. Now, when I try it, appley, citrusy, really fresh, lovely. Taste it. It's a cool climate grape. We're quite high up. There's a little bit of what we call a minerally touch to it. That is very good, minerally. But people say it's Nosiola because it has a nutty tang. And there is hazelnut, I don't know. Some people say hazelnut. I get hazelnut with more oak barrels. This is not really oak barrel-y. But there is a nutty, almondy, bitter finish at the end, which is common in lots of Italian wines. Some people say it's because the grapes go a very nutty colour. And when you harvest them, although that is a very bright-ish wine, you can just see there's a sort of sheen, a coppery sheen to it. In fact, if you've ever seen nickel, if you ever see pure nickel, get nickel bathroom accessories. They're beautiful, and it is the colour of nickel bathroom accessories. You're wondering how I know what they look like. It's because I know somebody who has a bathroom done entirely in nickel accessories, and it looks really nice. What do we talk about this? Aromatic, citrus, light-bodied. Oh, that is very good. Subtle hazelnut note. It is one of those wines. Now, here is a challenge. I'm going to go there today. It's a controversial thing as to whether you should say a wine is masculine or feminine. And I totally get that. How can it possibly be? But it's very common in wine. And some of you will sort of, oh, this is sort of feminine and it's bright. This is masculine, it's big and it's muscular. Here's a way round. If you are unable to drop this, be Jungian. I've heard a few people do this. Instead of it, Carl Jung had animus and anima. Animus is the male side of the female psyche, Anima is the female side of the male psyche. So what you can say, and it sounds much better and it's more thoughtful, and you can always sort of say, well, no, I'm not being sexist, I'm just being Jungian, is you can say, well, this is a very Anima wine. It reflects the feminine side of the male psyche. You're not saying it's one thing or another, it's part of life's rich tapestry and balance. Whereas I'm sure some of the later wines, big bruising reds, will be a bit more animus. There you go. I'm going to use that. I'm going to stick with it. We'll be getting the letters in about that. Thank you very much indeed. Right, what are we going to have next? A few of you are going to really like this. Osso Maremma Rosso from Fattoria Queciarossa in Tuscany. Now, I know that Johnny has a number of sort of dedicated agencies that he brings into Canterbury. Also, if you are in Kent, around there, Johnny Wren, only person who does, I think the only person in the area who does sort of at-home wine tastings and things. He'll go and do special corporate wine tastings for you. So go and get him along. This is beautiful. I know that the estate is near a place called, is it Saturnaria, where they have these sort of hot baths, the terma, the sulphurous baths. This is not sulphurous wine. So this is inland on the coast. Now, to understand these wines, this is what they call a baby Super Tuscan. A Super Tuscan with these wines that weren't Chianti, they had international grape varieties in them, and they became table wine. So the only way that they could be sold was as Vino di Tavola in the old days. There's a special classification now. But they were known as Super Tuscans because they were terribly expensive. Baby Super Tuscans are good value, super expensive wines, if you kind of get my meaning. So this is made from Sangiovese with Merlot, not really an authorised grape variety, Cabernet Sauvignon, and a grape variety called Canaiolo. It's £10.50. So if you like Chianti, and who doesn't? Oh, that is good. If you like Chianti, but you're worried about it having really rough tannins or being a bit too structured, this is more supple. It's still Italian, but in a sort of an international way. There's lots of plum and cherry and currants in there. Oh, that's gorgeous. Lots of cherryish fruit. So this you can only get from Songbird Wines, and I recommend it. Osso Maremma Rosso. And I'm pretty certain you can stay there. I think they have an agriturismo that you can go and stay at. Oh, I like that a lot. I don't know what I would pair that with. When you look at it, the colour is... Now, what vintage is this? Is this 16? Crikey. It's got a very, very tawny, almost, rim to it. The meniscus, which is that bit around the edge where it sort of lifts up. That's often a characteristic of Merlot. I wouldn't have... Maybe it's the Sangiovese in it that's given it that. Now, I've had a question about this. I'm going to go on to it. An urgent question from Chris Joseph in Florida. Hello, Chris. You've been quite cross with me, haven't you? Chris is very concerned that I swirled a wine with bubbles in it. And he says, I was always taught not to. Chris, you are right. It's a sort of nervous tick thing. I have been known to swirl a glass of water in the past because I'm just so used to swirling stuff. So I will have been swirling my bubbles. And you don't need to because the bubbles lift the aroma out themselves. You don't need to swirl around. You also then say, I've heard of bull's blood in Hungary. Have I heard of bull's blood in Hungary? I have. Series 3 coming out in a few weeks-ish. We go to Hungary and I go and discover the story of bull's blood. And it's really interesting. I go to the original castle and we go and talk to historians. And I'm not going to give it away because there's some quite funny bits and pieces in that film. You'll enjoy it a lot. Blau Frankisch, or Kek Frankos, as they call it in Hungary. So yeah, great, lovely wine. Enjoying a resurgence at the moment. Oh, that is good. I'm enjoying that a lot. Right, Rioja. Now, this is a Rioja, but not as we know it, Jim. Star Trek reference there. Rioja Graziano from Bodegas Casa Primicia. £15 from Songbird Wines. This is the most expensive of the trio. This is a very old winery in Rioja Alavesa. Now, it's made from Graciano. So lots of Rioja you'll have had before is Tempranillo, which is... tempra meaning little, io meaning little, tempra meaning early, this small early ripening grape variety. It then gets blended with Garnacha sometimes and with Graziano. Now you can actually make Rioja entirely out of these different grape varieties, but people tend not to. Graziano is a really interesting one. When you smell it, There's a very clear, creamy American oak to this. So Quercus alba, not Quercus suber or Quercus sessilis, which are the English and Scottish oaks. And it has a creamier, sort of softer, more oaky aroma, although less sort of tannin mouthfeel. But Graziano is used as a blending component that gives a bit of muscle and heft to wine. Remember when I was... This is very animus. Oh my goodness, I'm going to get in so much trouble for all of this carry-on. This is an animus wine, but it's kind of hairy. You know, this has got... I don't know, chest hair and a medallion, and it's muscly and there's firm tannins. It is a darker and more brooding sort of grape variety. So when you've tried Rioja, often you get quite anima Riojas, and they'll be made from Tempranillo, and they will be more pliable and softer and gentler and a bit more forgiving, and they've got more empathy and that kind of stuff. Whereas, this is wine that leaves the lavatory seat up. If I can go there. Oh, I dug such a massive hole. So I maybe should cut now. But quite a long way in, and I do all this on one take, and I'm 12 minutes in and I don't dare do it. So I'm going to just go with this. I'm going to put it out there. I'd never get away with doing this on the show. This is the best thing about doing the wine show at home, is I can do all the stuff that Melanie, hi Melanie, would have said, cut, Joe, go and have a sit down, and we're going to come back to that in a couple of minutes. So this is an Animus Rioja. It's fruit skin, damsons and tangy. Oh, I like that. Shall I try and dig myself over to a few holes? Give it a whirl. I am in a lot of trouble. Sorry. Right, I have to mention that we're filming this on International Malbec Day. We don't have a Malbec. And you may well not be watching it on Malbec Day, it's Friday. But there is a Malbec I want you to go and try. Hard to get in the UK, although it's a British winemaker. It is called Son Vida. It's up on the screen now. This is Son Vida from Altamira in Argentina. You can buy it from timelesswines.com and Kaisela in the United States. I recommend it totally. It's made by two friends of mine, David Smith and Sonia Rusula. You may recognise them in the UK because David was foreign editor at ITN. He was face on Channel 4 News. Sonia was an anchor, not only for ITN, I think 1 o'clock news, Channel 4 News, but also on CNN. So both extraordinary journalists, immense sort of experience. But David and I became very good friends. I love his wines very much. And he got me, he smuggled me once, we get crashed the White House Correspondents' Dinner at the DC Hilton. And I tell the story in his book, which is a brilliant book, Dream On, a demi-memoir by David Smith. It's about his career as a journalist, knowing Robert Mugabe very well, covering the Lebanese Civil War, working particularly in the United Nations, Kofi Annan, but also his and Sonia's dream of creating a winery. It's a brilliant book, and it explains how Colin Powell's security people had to remove me physically by force. Very, very good book, that. And then, Sonia, thank you very much for not getting too cross that after I got very drunk with Larry King and came crashing back into your house at about 3 o'clock in the morning from the museum. Good. Robert Park says, as your chef, I find people are too narrow-minded pairing wine with food. Quite right. Assuming that people have now accepted the bread can pair wonderfully with fish, what other wine pairing rules do you think should be a thing of the past? I'm going to leave this to an expert, the lovely Victoria Moore. And this is her book, The Wine Dine Dictionary. I gave it as a prize a couple of years ago. I'm entirely partial because Victoria and I grew up in the same part of Yorkshire. We kind of know each other a bit that way. It's a brilliant book, and it throws out a lot of old rules, and it introduces some, it comes back to some things where we really should stick to the classics. Utterly brilliant read. It's got some fab recipes in it as well, so go and buy that. Really love that. Couple of other questions. Oh, Jamie Hassanfang. I live on the Hawaiian island of Oahu. Oh, aloha. You'll have I have a difficult time getting wines shipped to me. Do I have recommendations for wine merchants? I'm not a great expert, but Kaka'ako Wines, I had a quick look on their list. Johannes Selbach's Selbach Oster Riesling is gorgeous. There's the Pinot Gris and for a blend from Au Bon Climat, which is lovely and ages better than you might think. It's a legendary wine. That have a look out for David Ramey's Syrah, which I'm a big fan of, and there's a beautiful wine from Vanya Cullen's Sauvignon. It's a lovely Vanya Cullen. It's a very long story. Maybe we'll tell it at one point. Red Glamazon. I can tell why you call Red Glamazon because I've had a look at your profile photo. She's contemplating opening a Castillo Catadao Gran Reserva 2012. Do open it. This is the winemaker. He's called Jorge Caus Pertegas. And if looking at a winemaker doing daft doesn't persuade you to open it, I don't know what will. You should absolutely do it. One final question here. Trevor Hayes. I always struggle to recognise and identify. Wasn't Trevor Hayes a singer, a soul singer? It was Trevor Hayes, wasn't it? Not the real Trevor Hayes. He sang a very rude song on South Park. I'm sure it's not the same Trevor Hayes. You struggle to recognise and identify aromas in wine. What would you recommend to help develop sensory awareness besides tasting more wine? Should I go through the fridge and spice cupboard? Yes, I don't do that. Artificial aroma kits. Go to... I'm sure you've got these at Tanglewood Aromas. The Native Ann kit. I regularly refer to my Native Ann kit. I pulled out the little one the other day. I've got the big one downstairs, but it doesn't really fit on screen, and I use that a lot to pick it up. Have a look at the aroma wheel, look up aroma wheel. It's really useful. But also, up on screen here, we've got the WSET. This is the diploma sort of list, which is really useful. The other thing, and I'll put this down at the bottom, go and visit winepages.com and look up for Tom Stevenson's Mind Jogging List. It's brilliant. I go back to it all the time, and you read it, it's all very serious. It's got the aroma, how you say that in 4 different languages: French, German, Italian, Spanish. It'll explain what that aroma is and a bit about it, where you would find it in wine, and it'll also give you the chemical compounds. But I was going through it and I'd forgotten about this one. One of the aromas is Oz Clarke's t-shirt de Oz. Maglietta di Oz, that's the Italian, found at the bottom of Oz Clarke's locker 3 weeks after a game of squash. The t-shirt was double bagged and sent to a laboratory for sensory analysis. A deadly combination of TCA, 2,4,6-trichloroanisole, and 2-methyl isoborneol and geosamin. So that's just a bit of daftness. Go and have a look up. That's a really, really good one. Now, Nicola Draw. Bit delayed, but happy anniversary. Well done, you. Thank you very much. Phil sent a little note in. I hope the Barolo was absolutely delicious. I'm sure it wasn't as delicious as Phil. There we go. And we had a quiz at the end of the last episode. So what are the answers to the quiz? Which wine was left out of Dr. Johnson's dictionary along with the word blonde? It was champagne. He hated the French, so he left it out. I told you that poem, wine comes in at the mouth and love comes in at the eye. Yeats, that was his poem. DJ Khaled he loves Dujac. It's Domaine Dujac in Burgundy, and he caused a spike in the price of Domaine Dujac's wines, the Chambertin, because he loved it so much on Instagram. Saddam Hussein was a big fan, it turns out, of Matthias Rosé. Who'd have thunk it? And the world's largest per capita and per hectare producer of wine is the plucky, tiny Republic of Moldova, which we got shouted at on the wine show. Ooh, do you remember that? When I got shouted at by the man. Oh, dear me. Thank you very much indeed to Songbird Wines for our wines today. All the wines are listed in the box below. Remember to like, share, subscribe to us. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of thing. Go and visit Johnny Wren, Songbird Wines. He delivers all throughout Kent, but I'm sure if you fancy any of these as the UK agent, he'll get them to you wherever you are. Send in some bits and pieces. Do you have somebody working in the care industry you'd like a shout out to? We'll give them a shout out. These are going to get packed up and sent off to some very worthy causes just after this. And keep your questions running. Stay in touch. Stay safe. Drink sensibly. And see you on Monday. Bye-bye.